This is the holiest soil in the world. It sounds dramatic, almost exaggerated, but it is just the simple truth. I'm standing here on Mount Scopus, Jerusalem, and what you see beside me is soil taken from the holiest place on earth, the Temple Mount, the place where the two Jewish temples once stood, the place where millions of Jews made a pilgrimage, including Jesus, the place where many of the Bible's foundational stories took place. But to understand how this soil got here and how you can not only visit this place yourself, but actually hold a piece of it in your own home, we need to go back for a moment to the biggest archaeological crime that happened in Jerusalem, and actually one of the biggest archaeological crimes in the world. In 1999, the Islamic Waqf, the Muslim authorities, carried out an illegal operation. During this work, ancient soil was removed from the Temple Mount, 9,000 tons of it, 400 truckloads carrying the historical layers of 3,000 years of Jerusalem. The Muslim Authority destroyed 3,000 years of history to build a mosque. This soil was never collected, never examined, never documented. It was simply dumped like garbage into the Kidron Valley. The meaning was clear: an enormous loss of information, evidence, and artifacts that could have taught us about the daily life, worship, kingdom, priesthood, and population that existed on the Temple Mount. This wasn't just negligence, it was an intentional act of erasure, erasing Jewish and Christian history of the Temple Mount and erasing archaeological proof of the Jewish connection to the holiest site in Judaism. Before I show you what this place here actually is, let me note two things. First, how many people even know about this crime against the Jewish people? Imagine what would happen if Jews damage Islam's holiest places, Mecca or Medina. What would happen then? How much violence would erupt? But when the holiest place for the Jews is destroyed, silence. Most likely, you never even heard about it. And the Waqf's destruction wasn't because of some local political dispute between Israel and the Palestinians. This is a religious conflict in which Islam appropriates and destroys other cultures. Just a few examples. The massive Hagia Sophia church in Istanbul was recently turned into a mosque. The Taliban blew up the giant Buddhas of Bamiyan. And these are just the famous cases. It is also worth remembering something else. Even the holiest site in Islam, the Kaaba, was originally a pagan pilgrimage site that Islam adopted. Interesting, right? Even Islam's most sacred site is something taken from another religion. But back to Jerusalem. Out of this destruction grew one of the most extraordinary projects in the world, the Temple Mount Sifting Project, led by Dr. Gabi Barkai and Sachit Vira, who have studied the Temple Mount for years. They understood that something here must not be lost. They collected the huge piles of soil dumped in the Kidron Valley and decided to sift through them item by item. And so, from the dirt that was thrown away, began this archaeological rescue operation. From this soil, thought to be lost forever, over 500,000 artifacts have been recovered so far, some of them among the most important ever found in Jerusalem. What do they find? An enormous variety of items from every historical period in Jerusalem. The ancient Israelite period, the time of David and Solomon, the first temple, the Persian, Hellenistic, Roman, and Byzantine period, the Islamic and Ottoman periods, and modern times. About 40% of the findings come from the Second Temple period. That's the time of Jesus, the time when Herod expanded the temple and turned the mount into one of the most impressive structures in the ancient world. The time of the events described in the New Testament. And only thanks to Gabi Barkai and Vira's intervention are findings from this period being revealed. They managed to bring the soil that was dumped into the Kidron Valley here. So how does it actually work? It starts here with piles of soil that don't look special at all. But you can immediately notice that the soil is darker than the surrounding soil. And the reason is destruction and fire. In this soil, there are traces of the destruction of both the first and second temple. First step, fill a bucket and bring it to the first sifting station. Here we separate the sand and the stones and the artifacts. The sand is bottled and sold as souvenir. It's a unique way to support the project while keeping a tiny piece of the holiest place on earth in your home. The buckets with stones, pottery, and finding is then divided into smaller buckets, washed and sifted. All the findings go into this box with compartments for pottery, glass, metal, and bones. And yes, you find lots of animal bones. Why? I've talked about this in previous videos. In the temple, animals were sacrificed. If you read the Bible, you see how central sacrifices were. And the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah, is also where God introduced, through the story of Abraham and Isaac, the idea that human sacrifice is no longer acceptable. There is also a compartment for mosaic stones. Jews made the decoration in the temple, so they didn't include images, only geometric patterns. Look at this, a piece of marble. We know King Herod used a lot of marble in his buildings, so there is a good chance this is from his time. Among the ashes, they've found not only coins but also large items like this fragment of a column from the Second Temple period. From Jewish sources and even the New Testament, John chapter 10, we know that the outer area of the temple had colonnades, which even non-Jews could enter. Most people imagine the temple as a single building, and that's true, but there were layers of holiness, from the outer colonnades where all people were allowed to enter, to the innermost chamber inside the temple, where only the high priest entered on Yom Kippur. The most common finds are pottery shards, broken vessels, which makes sense. They were cheap, used for daily life for thousands of years, and they break. To the untrained eye, they all look the same, but archaeologists can tell the period, region, and even the people who made the item based on the thickness, color, decoration, handles, and the shape of the base and the opening. And this is one of the greatest strategies of the waqf's destruction: layers. Layers are very important in archaeology. In Israel, you have sites with dozens of layers, and nothing makes archaeologists happier, besides discovering rare artifacts, than disasters. Fires, wars, earthquake, because they leave clear evidence. If you find remains from a certain period, then a destruction layer, ashes for example, from a war we know about from other sites, and then the same pottery above the layer, you know the settlement survived and continued. If you see different pottery above the burnt layer, you know a new population arrived. And the Waqf massive destruction erased the sequence of layers, one of the most important tools in the archaeology of Israel and the entire Middle East. And yet, despite everything, they found incredible discoveries. One of them is the bulla of Imer. A bulla is a clay seal, used only by king and high officials. It sealed letters with wax. And here they found a bulla with the name Imar. What's insane is that in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 20, the family of Imer is mentioned as a priestly family serving in the temple. And this is from the first temple period, 2,700 years ago. An object we can say with certainty belonged to the time when Solomon's temple stood. Whenever I mention the Bible, someone in the comment always says I'm basing things on a book of legends. Fine, let's go with that. It's a book of legends. And in this book of legends, it says a family lived in Jerusalem and served in the temple 2,700 years ago. And today we find proof right where they lived with their name on it. Another discovery isn't from an important priest, but from an ordinary Jew. When the temple stood, every Jew was required to pay a tax to the temple, the half-shekel tax. By the way, even today, Israel's currency is called the shekel, and the half-shekel coin says half, one line two, and not 50 agorot, 50 cents, because of this ancient meaning. And what did they find here? Actually, a kid found it, a half-shekel coin. A Jew who came to the temple 2,000 years ago brought this coin, and today a Jewish kid found it. And this is one of the special things here. It is not only archaeologists who make discoveries. When you come here to the sifting project in Jerusalem, you can find these things yourself. You just need to book a visit and do some sifting. It's a fantastic activity and I recommend it to anyone visiting Jerusalem. You are touching history, not looking at it behind glass in a museum. And this isn't some archaeological site in Wisconsin. This is the soil of the Temple Mount. If you can't come and want a meaningful symbolic gift for yourself or someone else, you can order a souvenir, a necklace, or a small veil of soil from the Temple Mount. The money goes towards continuing this important project that reveals the secrets of the holiest place in the world, the place that ties us to this land, the answer to anyone trying to erase the Jewish identity of Jerusalem and the land of Israel. The link is here below and the QR code is on the screen. And one last thing, they have a distribution center in the United States, so you will get your order within a few days. The link for visiting and for purchasing is down below. See you in the next video. Yalla bye.